I think any of us in tune with the news and actually just real life can admit that in today's market, working 40 hours a week in a lot of jobs is quite unsustainable. You know, you work those hours and you come home and your pay is barely enough to keep up with your rent, your mortgage maybe, and all of your other expenses. And that's not even considering saving for the future. I am seeing a growing number of young people from my generation, a bit older, a bit younger, talking about the fact that they're working full time and they're not getting the results that they expect. And they don't expect to have massively great houses and cars and all these. People just want a nice place or a decent place that's their own, whether it's rented or bought. People just want to be able to live a normal life, or what would have been called a normal life just a couple of years ago. And one thing that I see in the comment section of all these videos, or what I hear when I talk to a lot of older people, and it's almost always older people, is the fact that, well, you guys don't actually want to make your life better. You should be working 50 hours a week, 60, 70 hours a week. And I must say, bear in mind, a lot of these people of these generations fail to acknowledge how much better things were for them. I'll give you an example that I've given before on the channel. The fact that my granddad was an immigrant to the UK, was able to work a fairly basic job, buy a house, and actually buy another to become a landlord, right? That's true fairness, that's true meritocracy, right? You work hard and you get something to show for it. Now, you work those hours in a basic job like that today, and you are not making even your own rent in a lot of cities in the UK, in a lot of places in America, I would imagine as well. It's not very easy. And again, people go on this argument, again, the people who, when they did work hard, would have seen the results of it, that we should be working even harder. Now, as someone who in the past couple of weeks has worked quite long hour shifts sometimes, I think these people fail to acknowledge how little time you have when you work these 12-hour shifts because, working 60 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week, as people suggest to get ahead, is either working decent hours every single day of the week, so 7 days, no time to live, or it's working very long hours, 5 to 6 days a week. So let's just make the argument that you're working 10 to 12 hours. Well, that's 10 to 12 hours at work, fair enough, we all know that. But people fail to acknowledge the transportation, time, the time getting ready for work, maybe getting a meal before or afterwards, and then, of course, trying to do the basic things like shower, go to sleep. You don't have very much time left. Now, yes, you will make more money the longer you work, but not that much more. And this really grinds my gears, this argument, for one reason. Now, there are still certain careers, and I must say this, where working hard pays off. If you work anywhere where you get paid, 15, 20, 25, £30 an hour, working harder hours, longer hours, is going to get you ahead. But for your average person working, even a graduate job, all of the graduate jobs that I've seen with a degree pay about £24,000, which I think off the top of my head, I have done the calculations, it's somewhere between about £11 and £14 an hour, which I think that's the numbers. So at that point, right, you've got a semi-decent salary, that's around the UK average, slightly below maybe, but not far off. Here's the thing. That's only enough, or it's barely enough in some cities, to make your rent and have any money to live on. That's not even considering savings, right? And the generation who spoke about working long hours were the generation who, if they worked 60 hours a week, they could pay down their mortgage a lot faster. They could have an extra holiday, an extra car maybe. Now, that's not the case for a lot of people in this generation. They can't have anything extra. That's just to make ends meet. Now, when we've got people making the argument for working 60 hours a week to make ends meet, that's where I really start to disengage with this conversation. It's really where it starts to annoy me. And people might say that I'm wrong for that, people might call me lazy, but here's the thing, here's why I think it's fair for us all to take acknowledgement of this. Old, young, poor, rich, whatever, we should all acknowledge this for one simple fact. A lot of companies are making more profits than ever, right? So the rich are getting rich, very rich. Companies are getting rich. Share prices are increasing. But here's the thing. The productivity is obviously rising, or at least staying the same, but probably rising due to the advent of humans working alongside machines like computers and AI as well. So the productivity is rising, the pay is not. So when we're sat with a generation of people who are barely making ends meet and being told that they should work 60 hours a week, we are looking and pointing in the wrong direction. It's always pointing down to young people are lazy, old people have all the money. We're both wrong, right? Anyone that's got less than a couple of million, and I mean like maybe 10 million, is in the in the entire system basically broke. And I'm not saying that a millionaire is poor because that's stupid. But think about it. If you've got 1 million and someone's got 1 billion, the millionaire is comparatively very poor. £1 million is not an unfeasible amount to earn in a lifetime. You could spend £1 million on a car if you wanted to. £1 million wouldn't cover a lot of houses in the UK. So a millionaire is not necessarily that rich in the grand scale of the world. And I say this only to acknowledge the fact that we're pointing our blame in the wrong direction. Equally, young people are not necessarily lazy in my opinion. It's just the fact that we're sat in a generation of people who go to work full time, they're being told to work harder, and they're seeing their employers getting rich. They're being told in their board meetings or the daily meeting, the company's making more profit than ever. And then a lot of people are sitting there thinking, oh, well, that's great. I can't afford to make the rent. I've been a big help in this project. You know, they couldn't have done it without me. I'm not being rewarded fairly. And this is what I'm trying to say. Working long hours are very unsustainable for a lot of jobs. Not only are they unsustainable, there's no real means of getting ahead by doing it. You know, certain jobs you will get ahead, let's not lie. But a lot of jobs are the kind where you are not getting a better quality of life, really. You're probably going to get a worse quality of life. Because, you know, when you work in those 8, 9, 10, 12, 15-hour shifts, don't tell me that mental and perhaps even physical health is not just going to tank. Because I think it really is. I really do think it is, from my experience, and from what I've been told by other people. You know, I've done those long days myself, not for a long period of time at all. I don't need to, I don't want to. But when you do those 8 to 10 hour shifts, I'm 21, right? I'd like to say I'm in the prime of my life. I'm quite fit and healthy. I go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, whatever. Those long shifts are exhausting, right? Then you think, okay, so I'm expected to do this for the next 50 years just to get by. Hell no, is what a lot of people are thinking, right? Absolutely not. Because here's the thing, it's to get by. And because you're always getting by, living like this, paycheck to paycheck, you're not getting ahead. You're not getting ahead. And if you're not getting ahead, that means that there's 2 options. Number 1 is to carry on in this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. Number 2 is to work even longer. And this is the thing. This is where my axe to grind, if you will, is the fact that people are not acknowledging this. Companies are making more and we are being drained as nothing but units of labour. Nothing but. We're not workers, we're not employees, we're not co-workers or colleagues. Units of labour, a lot of people are. You know, people with degrees getting paid less, in some instances, if you do the hours that they do, less than minimum wage for having a degree. Companies are exploiting the fact that in today's job market, people are desperate for money. A lot of people will take any job because they're that broke and destitute. They're exploiting this fact. And I don't know what this is going to end in, but this is a problem that I have, right? We're all talking about young people are lazy. If you want to get ahead, work hard. Yeah, work hard. But why are we not acknowledging the fact that £11 an hour is not enough to get the train to and from work? So maybe 1 to 2 hours worth of work is gone just on getting to work, right? So if you work 12 hours, you just got paid for 10 realistically. That's because the cost of everything's so high and wages are so low. And people might say, you know, there's an answer to this. I know that some jobs do pay better than obviously minimum wage. A lot of jobs do actually. But here's the point, right? Why should people, anyone really, work more than 40 hours when they're putting out so much productivity just to rent a small 1-bedroom room in a house share? Why should they do that? So it's not that people are lazy, but for people to be workers and productive workers, they need to see a benefit to their own life, right? If we can say, oh, I'm in the office all week, I'm in the office all month, but I'm going on holiday next month, or I'm getting a new car, or I'm getting a new place, or I come home to a nice house, fair enough. You know, it almost feels worth it. But when you're doing all that kind of work that everyone else has done for the generations, and you're getting nothing, it's not a case like a lot of older people say of, oh, well, why can't they just work like us? It's not that, I don't think. I think it's the fact that people are just not rewarded in the same way that they would have been 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago even. You know, when you're not seeing the product of your labour, why put so much in? And especially when you're asking people to put more in, it's just proving the fact that we're just units of productivity. You're going to be doing nothing at that point. And again, this is what really frightens me about places like the UK. If costs continue to rise, at the rate that they are. And, thank God I've got my own businesses. I've said this before. This is helping me a lot, my businesses. But if costs continue to rise via people who haven't thought ahead, via people who don't run businesses, don't want to move abroad to a cheaper country or a country where they can get better pay or basically just have some sort of a better quality of life, things could get bleak very fast. Because, if 50 hours is a new average to get by, well, then it's going to be 60 then 70. 70 hours a week, or even 60, or really even 40. 40 is probably the limit, but 50, 60 hours a week, you're giving the majority of your life to your company just to get by, not to get ahead, to get by. It's a shocking situation out there, guys, and it really worries me. I know it worries a lot of you guys too. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.